Was it doing double? What the heck, dude? Always something stupid with these programs. This sound cool though. As long as it as the rhythm was correct. Never ending issues with sound and the sound demons. I'll say it. God, I'm not gonna read some of this. All right, welcome everybody. I'm copying myself. Wait, am I the real Father Inez or somebody else? What's the... All right, let's give some shout outs. Thank you for those super chats. As our usual contributor, Dave the Philippian, thank you so much. Donates $10. I do have an announcement. I have a frog today. Is it every other day I get a frog? Yesterday was fine. The day before wasn't. The day before was fine. Okay. So, we're going to be doing a lot of stuff with Patristic Faith. One of the things I totally forgot about, we've got to... I'm going to start doing more stuff on the Patristic Faith Instagram. I just have to get... we're locked out. Like, we can't seem to retrieve the password. We've tried, my web guy and I, so we should be eventually be able to resolve it. But I guess Instagram's where it's at. And I should have known better, and I should have leaned in to using Instagram more. We got to build this channel. It has been... Also, I'm going to try to get some more articles up. We're always looking, too, for people to help who are baptized Orthodox Christians in good standing in the church. If you make clips, if you can offer your service in some way, if you want to intern with Patristic Faith, we're always looking for that. We even, if you're a good writer, you're Orthodox Christian in good standing, you can even submit a journal piece, an article or something like that. The other things, what else are we doing with... We're going to ramp up the Patristic Faith YouTube, and I'm working on coming up with a... Let's see. A series, since I already started with... I've been planning this. Of course, we do the morning prayers, and, once in a while I'll do something where I present on, something, or philosophy or theology. We always do this, but we're gonna change. We're gonna do a lot more. And one of the things, since I started with Garby too, bringing on Orthodox philosopher, is a series of great conversations where we bring on Orthodox philosophy professors, theologians, and priests. And I'm still working on the thumbnail to put this up. Something like this. Patristic Faith presents anamnesis. Anamnesis is a Greek word for remembering. But not only that, I'm calling to memory in order to worship God and fulfill and advance human nature, yourself. So it has a notion of, very interesting word, both a memory and a teleology. And so we're going to have interviews with philosophy and, in philosophy and theology, and that's going to be a series. So I have several philosophers already lined up. And so if you like that thumbnail, some people say it kind of blurs together. It's hard making thumbnails and getting it just like the vibe that you want. But that's the big announcement. I forgot to announce that yesterday, so forgive me. But that should be exciting. One other thing. But I've always liked that word, anamnesis. I've because it's more than just memory. But like I said, it's a calling to memory in order to explore human nature. And human consciousness, so that one knows thyself, and to know thyself is to develop thyself. And so I first came across that. Eric Vogeland used that term, and I've always liked that. And I thought that would be a great name for a series, because I'm interviewing philosophers and theologians where we're calling to memory some of the great ideas and the things in history in order to what? Self On a journey of human self-discovery and development of, to know what it is to become truly human. So that's why I chose that word. Of course, all the philosophers nerds are like, I love that word. Yeah, and I didn't call it The Great Conversation. That's like the subtitle, because I know, Britannica owns, but they are The Great Conversations. Yeah, I wish I would have got more people in here, but I don't care anymore that people don't care about philosophy. I mean, I do. I'm not letting it bother me that we don't get the numbers for the philosophy and theology streams. I'm not going to go on whatever podcast to get my numbers up and do entertainment. Now, in the classroom, we made jokes about, I might start doing, what? Carnival, rave, Burning Man, circus, Blue Man, philosophy class sponsored by Monster and Insane Clown Posse. Yeah, you guys All are called, few are chosen. I'm joking about the. I mean, I do make jokes and stuff and try to make it somewhat entertaining, stuff like that. But like, no, I'm not gonna comparable. Like, look, we live in a consumerist entertainment side. I mean, even debates. That's why I have mixed feelings about debate. I still do them. Obviously, the debate I thought was a win for Orthodoxy with Christopher Tomaszewski and Dr. Trent Dortry, both doctors. Um, Overall net is still positive, but it's just like anybody can have a debate stream now. Anybody can debate. Who don't have the qualifications, who aren't under clergy, who can do whatever they want, and it's just all entertainment. And so it's just it's become popular kind of who's my favorite guy, my favorite team and stuff. It's just stupid, dude. So, but it's not so bad yet that it doesn't have some kind of benefit. So debates, I might do some more of those. What are some other things that you guys would like to see? We've got the interviews. I'm not gonna do Charlie Kirk. All my reels are Charlie Kirk. I really can't stand that guy. What's your thoughts on Charlie Kirk? Again, this low-hanging fruit stuff, just beating up on just the Charlie smirk. The lowest, easiest degens in society. Like, I just don't think overall it's a good look. Short form pre-recorded content. Oh, that would be interesting. Saying snow cookies, yeah. Like a short kind of synopsis of some philosophical or theological issue. That's great. Great idea. Pre-recorded shorts. I like that. Thank you. Charlie Top Gun. Turning Point USA. About playing music. Yeah, that would be great. Like shorts on easy ways to defeat atheism, determinism, stuff like that. Some people mentioned too doing call-in. Yes. Let's see if we have any more super chats. Oh yeah, that would be cool. Go over cheat sheet of every heresy. Turncoat USA. We used to do that in Discord. Actually, more prayers actually started in Discord. Yeah, I don't pop into Discord too much, huh? I need to like create an AI doppelganger of me, an AI deacon that can do. There's just too much stuff to do in life. Yeah, also, we have a conference in November. What does Athens to do with Jerusalem? I'll get that up soon. Metropolitan Jonah, Father Vlad, Jay, and myself. There's probably somebody else coming to. I don't think I can make it to um, the Ledwell conference. It's expensive for me to um, as you know, many of you that traveled into Montana, it's flights out of Helena, Montana are really expensive. And so, I can only do so much. Um, I get, if I'm presenting a paper, sometimes I can get funding from the college. And obviously, at the if I'm speaking at a conference, but if it's just attending a conference somewhere, I'm not getting paid to go out. I should set that up, a speaking tour. Like, I've seen that before too. You can book me for your parish and pay for the flight to come out and oh man. Jeez. All of that happened to you, Crispy? Have you seen the one the joke about the libertarian graffitis on the wall? Um don't let government tell you what to do. And then somebody underneath says, "Don't tell me what to do." Yeah, Discord kind of had that. Gooster had that kind of vibe that the kind of cute people just kind of come into the voice chat and ask questions and stuff like that. Get this frog out of my throat. All right, what else is going on? Joshua, good to see you. Good talking with you yesterday. Let's look at, let's do the morning news. News. I shared one thing from Wagner, and now all my stuff on my feeds from Wagner. It's hilarious. Dude, what in the matter with Protestants? Protestant Satorians has got to be the dumbest. Great thing about being a Christian is that when you die, you go straight to heaven to be with Jesus as an orb. Is an immaterial mathematical orb. No hell, no purgatory. What's a Christian? Notice what a stupid. Oh, if you just believe, if you have an abstract list of sets and say the sin is like, then it's just a contractual. I mean, agree, no purgatory. But they're so, especially evangelicals. Again, I can't relate to this because I was a Lutheran. I didn't have such a watered down, dumb version of salvation and these different, I think it was fairly new. I'm like, I don't know if like every Christian goes, somebody, I mean, doesn't it say in scripture, not everybody that says, Lord, Lord, will enter into the kingdom? But the thing about evangelicalism is that they're so prideful. But that's not the worst of it. They're extremely dumb and ignorant. I mean, they always say the person was a Christian, so they're with the Lord. It's like, how the heck would you even know that? Well, because they signed the legal contract, you see. But yeah, I mean, the person's right to call this person out on purgatory. Purgatory is dumb too. Give a big shout out to my dear friend and our resident iconographer who's going to be finishing um probably next month our church, but that's Shane Swenson icons. Make sure you follow him. You can't even fathom. Good. Let's give a shout out to Wildcat for calling out the heretical infiltrators to Orthodoxy, the Latin westernizers, PSA, penal substitutionary atonement, heretics that have tried to come into Orthodoxy with weird Augustinian ideas about salvation and baptism, and the infants go to hell. So we do not believe that. Do not get your theology from randos on the internet with no blessing to teach. People are like, how do we know? It's like, well, stop listening. Why are you listening to these people? Do you pull out your Ouija board and contact the spirits and be like, well, Father, how do we respond to? You know how many times I get emails, Father, how do we respond to this argument? How do we respond to this person? They did a video. I'm like, why are you talking and to these people? Why are you listening to? God forbid if you ever go onto Reddit. That's gotta be. I don't even understand why people like Orthodox Christian would even go onto Reddit. Other than again, like when I was popping, like looking up something on uh, how to fix my printer, and of course a Reddit thread comes up. Like other than that, do you know what I'm saying? You've got some serious mental health problems and spiritual issues if you're like going on to Reddit for anything else. And yes, why are you on spirit Ouija boards contacting entities and be like, but we have to respond, their argument's really good. I'm like, you don't have to do a dang thing. Like, why are you talking to these people? Why are you following and listening? Now I'm all confused. Well, maybe that's the problem. Maybe you shouldn't be talking to entities that you don't know and getting and arguments and theological discussions from. Why? It was really important, and a phrase in the early church: who sent you? Who are you? Who sent you? Under what authority are you? Well, I'm 16 years old and I'm on X. And you have to. I'm like, nope. Nope, 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 nope. That's gotta be Montana. Doesn't that just look like Montana to you? Or Wyoming? Oh, I'm trying to find something to show you that I saw that I wanted to cover. And the Protestantism isn't even like the Protestantism like 500 years ago. Father, how do we answer? How do we? What do we say here? By the way, that just shows, like, unfortunately, you're obviously very insecure if you think that we have to respond to everybody that raises an objection. We got to do a hit video response piece to. And I should start doing classes on time management. First of all, how many times? It's like, I mean, that's some practical. How about that? Let's do some practical stuff as well. I had a tutoring session with a student yesterday. This is another good one. This would be really beneficial. Is to maybe do like a cheap small class on how to write essays, how to construct outlines, um, create thesis statements, supporting arguments, and stuff like that. That's what we went over. I had a blast with the student yesterday. Um, that's a real practical benefit. Also, time management. What else? Spiritual management. That would be good. I like the practical stuff. It's always like the last sip there is all just the mud. Remember the Primus song? My name is Mud. Also, if there's somebody really big, like Les Claypool, and you want me to interview, you should reach out to. Let's get some big people on the channel. Mel Gibson, Les Claypool, and Joe Rogan, and who else? Alex Jones. We've never had any really big on. Tony Hawk. All right, I'm gonna find what I was looking for. That'd be a good title of stream. I'm gonna find what I was looking for. Oh, dude. Do you remember this? I haven't seen this in a long time. This was such a weird. This must have been like. This was 12 years ago. Kai the a hatchet wielding. Do you remember this guy? Gotta see this. It's just too good not to play. It just popped up on my. Now, what's really interesting about this is a weird story. Like, I think he was like involved in some other stuff and a murder. I don't know if he got prosecuted. So like, there's this whole weird story. But he first came on the scene that through this just funny interview with this news anchor. Uh, and then he kind of got popular. This is before like social media was like, like somebody had channels and stuff like that. But this was in 2013, but it just popped up. We gotta watch this. Y'all know this one. Let's see.
He runs up and he grabs one of them, man. Like a guy that big can snap a woman's neck like a pencil stick. So I fucking ran up behind him with a hatchet, smash, smash, smash. Yeah.
The lady said you saved her life.
You look so crazy.
She was the one who got grabbed by that fucker. You know what? Is cool. That guy ain't. Shit.
How'd you get in his car? How did you?
I was hitchhiking. Well, good thing I was hitchhiking. Yeah, people say don't hitchhike. Well, this is what happens. Well, at least I was here.
So he did this on purpose.
Dude, that guy was fucking cooked out, man. Like, he's beyond Howley. Like, I don't even see any breath in him. You know what I'm saying?
Can I get your name and where you're from, if you don't mind?
I'm Kai.
Kai? Can I get spelling for you?
Straight out of Dogtown. K-A-I.
K-A-I. Do you have a last name?
No, bro. I don't have anything.
Where are you from originally? Are you from Fresno area?
Sophia, West Virginia.
No kidding. How old are you?
I can't call it.
Okay.
Do you remember that? And then, so what was he involved in later? Smash, smash, smash. Oh, that's right. So then he met this lawyer who was obviously like a predator perv. Invited him to his home in New Jersey. And then 3 days later, he was found dead, beaten, stomped. And then, yes, he was charged with first-degree murder. That's what was so weird about. Wow. So if that was in 2013, the trial began in 2019. So you're 6 years in prison awaiting your trial. What happened, though, to him? We want to know what happened to Kai, the hatchet-wielding hitchhiker. Yeah, so he's claiming he was drugged, but there was no drugs in the system. But obviously there was some type of sex relationship there. Oh, there's a Netflix whole thing on him. We'll look it up. So I guess he's obviously still in prison. But what was the sentence? I want to know what he got. How many years? Oh, okay. Oh yeah, remember the Aussie bloke and his undies? Please tell me somebody put a video up on. Don't be a hero, mate. Reckon. Remember? Said, don't be a hero. I ran into him. No information on. Yeah, exactly. Anyways, that popped up. I thought it was worth covering for today's news. Old news. No, Orthodoxy does not support Israel. Do most aware Orthodox Christians think? Well, conservatives probably have no idea what anything about Orthodox. Father Spirit and Bailey, who's on Patristic Faith, has a lot of good stuff about that. There's been recent debates whether Orthodoxy supports Zionism, the state of Israel, or the clearly Christian Zionism. No way. That's a Protestant dispensationalist heresy. All right. More news. Let's go. So we did Kai the gay hatch it wheeling hitchhiker. Oh, this is interesting. Bizarre tech. St. Raphael of Brooklyn on the difference between Roman or what? Let's see. And the Orthodox Church. Joshua, you and I talked about this yesterday, so it's interesting that this came back up. As I said, obviously this began before 1054. 1054 is just kind of, I don't. It's not arbitrary. It's what's the word? It's kind of just a practical marker. But obviously, it's not a discrete division. There's a continuum that goes back to where's the departure. St. Raphael of Brooklyn says, but if one might open the impartial history of the church, it will be observed that the Western church that walked together modestly and steadfastly with the Eastern church until about the 9th century, where the Western church, certainly according to the witness of Sozomen, quote, regulating itself purely by the doctrines of the fathers, wished to avoid the quarrels and prattle concerning these things. He even calls the Western church, the Latins, an abyss of false belief to which it had fallen. Ambitious proclivities, advancing from error to error in a spiritual world of worldly affairs. And that's what I was talking to Joshua yesterday about. It's not simply the filioque. The change in the Latin West really became this ambition and politicization of the church, and worldly affairs, especially when you get the Papal States, the Frankish kingdom, Charlemagne, all this kind of stuff, the donations of Pepin, real radical changes, the shameless innovations. Yeah, so here, look down at the bottom. Exactly what I said, Joshua. The Roman Church viewed the Bishop of Rome as simply a spiritual and only. West, the Papist Church views him both as absolute spiritual and worldly leader. If you go to the donation of Pepin, it says that he's not just the spiritual, right? There's not just a notion of papal supremacy in terms of the church, but he is the world leader. He is the Caesaro-papism, right? He is the Quetzalcoatl, the emperor of emperors. Contrary to both scripture and tradition. We say first among equals, became first above equals. Yes, summus pontifex, supreme heart. That's papal supremacy. The infallibility of one man in one office versus conciliarity, that changes. Here's the filioque. People just think it's a filioque, but it's all this. The change, obviously, the violation of the canon of Ephesus as well. You can't change. So there are canonical violations, not to mention theological problems with the filioque. The changing of baptism, contrary to scripture and the canons. The removing of chrismation. The innovation of confirmation. Changing of the Eucharist from leaven to unleavened was another innovation. And that happens, I'm trying to remember. You can look that up. I looked it up before. It was 600 or 800s when they started. The words of institution, so the changing. A separation of species, right? Orthodox Roman Church provided this privilege to all the faithful without exception under both species. The Papists, only one. Deprives small children. Exclude the lady from communion at the drink it of all of you. The notion of penance changed. The adoption of ancillary satisfaction theory. Mandatory celibacy was then implemented as another innovation. Now the Orthodox Roman Catholics, you see, they always remember this whole thing about, like, but your church allowed this, the dissolution of marriage in the case of spousal infidelity. The Papist one views it is incompletely insoluble. So they will destroy families and not let people be in the church because they're rule worshippers. And it's an innovation. It wasn't even practiced in the Orthodox Roman Catholic Church. So it's hilarious that they make these arguments that that's the hill they're going to die on. Second, I think I missed. So the unction, the rite of unction is taken away from the priest. It's only celebrated by the bishop and only for those who are dying. So we actually have for the sick in general, for all, and the priest can do that. It's actually the office is called the office of 7 priests. If you have 7 priests, the Holy Unction office, but any priest can actually do that, so they changed that. Changing a fast. The innovation of venerating statuarism. Good summary of the errors of the Papists and the innovations and changes. That's why I said, how do we know they both claim? It's like, well, you have to look at history. and be like, does it look anything like the first millennium of the church? No, it doesn't. It's a total different church. It's not an Orthodox Roman Catholic church. It's St. Raphael Brooklyn points out, a papist church. All right, what's going on? Whoa, Christina Gallagher got done for gambling. Did the Garchi get her? Good. Wacko lady. I can't believe people fall for this. Like, just the craziest stuff. You know what's cool with my Subaru? Look at this big screen, all the computer stuff. This huge computer screen, and like if a text comes in, I can be read aloud, and then I can do voice text. It'd be like, "Would you like to respond?" I'm like, "Yes." "What would you like to say?" And then I'll say, and then send out. So I'm not, because I got to be careful. I have a bad habit of wanting to like text when I'm driving. My wife's always like, people die that way, so forgive me. I do need to work on that, but it makes it easy that I have the voice and the audio with the computer that I could send out. But be safe out there. Looking at history is hard. Well, I mean, if you have something like that, if you have like a sort of kind of template to be like, did these things actually happen? I mean, how hard is it to like look up, are those things actually true? If they're true, it's not the church of the first millennium. That's the point. All right. Oh, dude, that's like this guy gets instantly pulled over for driving his truck backwards. Yeah, I would think so. Oh my gosh. Here it is. Protestantism. Let's do. I didn't say anything.
Yo, what's up, mother flowers? We're here at Dead
Mother
and Buried.
flyers.
That's right.
Richie the barber, the Christian barber, Protestant barber that looks like the devil, dude. Look at he tattooed it. So, what up, mother flyers? I gotta remember that. That's hilarious.
Dead and Buried silk screening warehouse right here. That's where we get our stuff. We got the brand new gear. Damn it. Jesus loves you. And of course, we got Now That's Demonic. Ah! Brand new hats. It's available on the website. We have them all right here. Dude, you guys, we got deals. Check out the link in the bio and you can get your very own. Damn it! Jesus loves you shirt, and that's demonic hat. Go right now. Hurry up, guys. We got deals. Let's go. Ah!
Church! Whoa! That's actually Pastor Randy Balls' son, Pastor Richie Barber. There he is, the man in Hillendar. Pray for Jared. He Pentalemon. He is in Heelandar right now. We had a phone call from Mount Athos yesterday. Oh, dude, that is my nightmare. I have claustrophobia. No way. No! Caver found X after 36 hours. I got claustrophobia in the locker halls in high school. Like, I'd have to run through them because I just couldn't stand to be enclosed. Sam Hyde. Yeah, what? Is this
Hey, Moses.
how to trick God while still following Talmudic law?
Tell me what this is. What's going on here?
This is not just some ordinary phone right here. This is what we were all talking about, an Eruv. If you look up, you see this? Orthodox Jew does not carry on Friday night to Saturday night. We do not do this. This is a prohibition, a commandment, one of many, on Sabbath, not to carry from a public domain onto a private domain unless it's cornered in, unless it's private. We can't do that. And people need to carry their prayer books. People need to carry a prayer shawl. You got a little baby. The Talmud tells us all the way back from Moses that if you create an Eruv, an encompassing, it takes a public domain and makes it into a private domain, as long as there are walls. What is a wall? So, we understand through Jewish law that this is the beginning of a wall, and the string, and it has to be a certain amount of space between this and the next one. The laws in the Talmud
We outsmart
regarding
God with the
Eruv
law.
are extremely complicated because none of us want to transgress this biblical commandment. It's very common for people to say, is the Eruv kosher? Not only food needs to be kosher, but the Eruv. Wow. So we can walk inside this hotel carrying our prayer shawl and we can go all the way, come on, within this parameter. We can't go out. Public, private. Public,
Does this guy have so much energy?
you heard it from Moses.
I can't believe it. We tricked God finally. We finally outsmarted the God. There you go. Talmudism for you. Oh, wow. That's why there's a Y around Long Island. Holy smokes. Didn't even think about that. It's not kosher. Gotta trick God. Oh my. So crazy, dude. I can't believe that even exists. That's amazing. No, let's talk about my claustrophobia. Let's do a public confession. It's the fear of getting stuck in a really tight where I couldn't get out. So I remember when I was younger, I used to, like, in a sleeping bag, like, remember this when you were a kid, go down the mountain and try to turn around, like, twirl around down at the end, and I, like, got stuck once where I was like, oh, where you could suffocate or something like that. So, like, I don't mind going into a cave or something like that, but, like, not something like that where I'm like actually smashed into something and I can't get out. I get like antsy, like I want to run, like if I'm in a really tight crowd. Like the one that always gets me, this was the other day, we were at a Symphony Under the Stars. And you have these old boomers in front, and they're like wheeling and they're just totally oblivious that there's any. I'm like, I'm trying to get around you, right? You're going like they're stopping, and they're like, he's looking around. Where am I? Oh, where? Oh, is this a lawn? Oh, he was looking for probably a place to put his stuff, and it's like I'm trying to. You've had that experience, right? Where the like somebody just totally oblivious to their surroundings, and every time you try to get around, they move to the, and it's like dude, that kind of stuff, or like being at a fair or something, like where everybody's walking slow and I'm trying to get somewhere, like locker halls, right? It's like I'm trying to get to the other side. I remember this in high school, and it's just like a jam, and it's just like, so I did this thing where I got really good, where I'd run as fast as I could, and I could jump through and turn and get all the way through his fastball. It's just stuff like that that's weird, but like flipping around in a sleeping bag and getting stuck, like getting cramped, sandwiched in like that guy, or like where you're in a cave. It's like, nah, I can't get out. I mean, you hear these stories where like people die, these spelunkers, like that stuff bothers me. I don't like, it shouldn't bother anybody, right? Like it's not something weird about me. What's my other phobia? Spiders. I don't like spiders. I have arachnophobia. I mean, not too bad, but it's just like they're creepy, and I don't. The one thing I don't want to see is a spider biting me. Now, I'd probably say the same thing about scorpions or something. Like anything that like looks creepy and can hurt you, biting you. Um, that freaks me out. Is that weird? Yeah, maybe it's not even I don't think it's claustrophobic. Like maybe that's just normal. Like nobody wants to be stuck in a sleeping man, like sleeping man bag, um, sleepy bag. Oh, go for it. Hold on, here's my Adam Sandler. It's a sleepy man bag. Sleepy man. Oh, go gaga gaga. What's your favorite spider? Yep. And when I was in California, we had a lot of black widows, and then the black widow population got out popularized by brown widows, which egg sac produces. A black widow produces like 10 to 15. They had like 100 in their egg sacs that looked like they had the white balls with like spikes on them. They're actually less aggressive, but more poisonous, so less likely to bite. But like there were summers where it's just they were everywhere, and of course they're always in areas where you put your like, you know, the trash can like underneath the like the handle where you'd wheel out. They were always there. I'd always stick my hand in and be like, oh. That's exactly where one would bite you, right? Stick it into their little nest web, and yeah. So luckily, I've never gotten bit by. But I heard it's like I've seen some video of one of these dudes that actually got himself purposely bit by a black widow, and how much pain and how like he said it just kind of stung at first, and it just got worse, and where he was just like he was throwing up. His whole body and arm was. He had to go to the hospital eventually. Like it's just like that kind of stuff. Like, but But I was fascinated with spiders as a kid. We used to have these garden spiders, golden orb spiders that, if you're familiar with Southern California, they're everywhere. And they're big, fat, they're ugly. They're not uh, poisonous. They have venom, but they're not poisonous. But they're totally creepy looking, man. They build those big orbs and orange trees, and then what are the other, uh, the kind of cypress trees and stuff like that. I used to catch them in jars and then make a web in a jar, and I was like interested in looking at. Like, what's your favorite spider? But I remember one jump. They actually can make hissing noises. One jumped at me when I was trying to get hit. Like that freaked me out. Yeah, look up brown widow. It's interesting. I would hate to live in Australia, man. They have the worst, most venomous stuff down there. I don't know. God protect. Like, we also had like a microwave, and then there were like some drawers that open, like really small, where you can put like your cookbooks and stuff. And they would always get in there too. Like you'd see brown widows. They like those closed. I mean, they're hiding. Obviously, they not want to be bothered. But that's the stuff that you can't actually see. That you put your hand in. And then we had, I would live with my grandmother taking care of her, and my grandfather had since passed, but we had like a machine and wood shop in the garage, and you could just imagine they were all throughout there, black widows, brown widows. Yeah, I just could not do Australia. Although the surf seems really good. I would like to. They're about this. Let's look at brown widow. Let's do a autist video on brown widows. Latrodectus geometricus is a species of the arachnid. It's a little known cousin. Did you ever think Patristic Faith would do? Whoops. It seems that everybody's heard of the black widow, but the little known cousin that's becoming a pest in certain areas of the United States. Each season, female brown spiders lay several egg sacs that's why I said 120 to 150 eggs. Egg sacs are distinguished with silky spikes projecting for like a milk thistle. That's how you notice. The brown widow belongs to Latrodectus, a genus of spiders that's known as true widow spiders. I guess it's considered to be least dangerous. I don't know. I thought it was more poisonous, but they look like. But I heard they're not as aggressive or willing. That's what they look like right there. So you can see the red hourglass, but they're not black like the black widow right there. They've got an abdomen that looks a little bit different. I mean, they look disgusting, dude. There's little egg sacs right there. I think the black widow looks creepier, though, don't you think? There, egg sac. Yeah, they look like. Oh, dude, can you just imagine waking up and just seeing all those things hatching on your face? Crawling through your nostrils and out your ears. Oh, dude. Yeah. There you go. Well, not that bad. Look at this, dude. That's exactly what I don't want happening to me. Look at this guy's leg, dude. They just immediately give you diabetes leg. Oh. And necrosis develops. Yeah, then not what I want. Are less aggressive. And, oh, so they're less venomous than the black widow, I guess. And less aggressive. But still. But these things, man, the Brazilian wandering spider, that's like the worst. You die. You are dead. But look at that. That still looks pretty bad. I don't want it. Is that really arachnophobia not to, like, want one of these things on my face and neck biting me while I'm sleeping? And I've had that happen before, like, I wake up and there's, like, a spider smashed on my face, and I'm like, oh, dude. Yeah, I didn't have, yeah, arachnophobia, I remember when that came out. But I don't know if, like, tarantulas bothered me. It was stuff like that that... And you never, yeah, Craig, you never get, like, you get conflicting information. By the way, that's why I posted, this was me, when I found out, you know, about this as a kid. When people ask me, what did you do for fun before electronics? I burned spiders. I did that all the time, man. I just loved roasting spiders. Accidentally burned my brother's eyebrows off once because I was showing my little brother. I'm like, God, check this out. I found the biggest flame was the engine spray gum out. Like, I don't know what was in that, but like, it was the best. Look at the flames like going into. You're always paranoid that they would, like, you always hear the stories like, if it goes into the canister, it'll blow up in your hands. But I told my brother, I'm like, wow, get out of the way, watch this. And he walked in front of the flame and it burned his eyebrows off. And I was like, smoking. The eyebrows, oh. And like, I was just like, oh my gosh. All you can think about is I'm busted. My parents are gonna kill me. I burned my little brother's face off. So I was like, don't tell mom. And I had to sit there and like pluck all the singed eyebrow. I mean, he just ended up looking like Marilyn Manson with no eyebrows left on his face. So I was like, yeah, I don't know which one looks worse. I got in trouble. I got busted. But that was a funny story. Yeah, apparently ate spiders. Yeah, that's gross. That's stuff I don't like to think about. And then 2 or 3 years ago, I was in Lincoln at our cabin fishing, and I was driving back home to Helen, and I felt like something on my neck. I like grabbed it, And it was this huge wolf spider, and I was like, oh! You're trying to like not crash the car, and I threw it down, and then I'm like, oh, you could be in my pants, like you'd be crawling up my leg, and I was like trying to remain calm till I could find a place to pull up, because I'm like, I could picture also wasps and hornets too. Like, how many people might have like crashed their car because you're like swatting at, or if you got stung or something like that, bothers me too. But I was trying to remain calm, pulled over, I couldn't find it. I'm like, I'm not going back to Helena until I find this thing, because I don't want it crawling into my pants, up my leg, and biting me or something. I mean, the thing was huge. And I'm like, I can't find it. And I looked, sure enough, he was crawling up my leg, and I took a photo of it, like how big. It took me an hour to get my heart rate down. Spider. That was the photo I took when I got him on the ground. Nasty creature, dude. I didn't kill it though. It's weird. Ever since I became Orthodox, a different kind of view and respect for life. And I let a spider outside I know it sounds weird. It's not hippie or anything like that. Just because they're ugly doesn't mean they have to die. So it's just like, I just want you out of the house. But I actually feel if there's not a necessity to kill something, like having been Orthodox, I have that feeling. I'm like, it's just a contempt for life or something. Like there's a level of contempt and just like, why would you kill I mean, everything serves its purpose in the ecosystem and stuff like that in the world, that it's just like, unless I have to kill something or eat it or something, like I let most of the fish go unless I'm gonna eat it. The last fish, I got a white fish and he swallowed the nymph, and I'm like, he's gonna die. I actually felt bad for the fish, and I was like, well, I have to do the right thing. I have to take him back and consume eat the fish. Like, he gave his life so that I can eat. So it's weird being Orthodox, isn't it? Now flies, I wouldn't mind. Like, flies might be the only one thing that I'd be like, I just kill them no matter what. Centipedes, yes, that's another one. Interesting enough, we have these big rocks when I grew up in Garden Grove in our yard. And as a kid, I loved lifting it up. And these rocks had all kinds of holes in it. So there was I could not believe how many bugs lived. Spiders, pincher bugs, sow bugs. But we had these little, and I'd never seen them in like anywhere else, these little brownish red centipedes. Never got bit, but I heard centipedes bite really hurt. Do I have a book recommendation getting into philosophy? That's a good question. I mean, heck, one of the best introduction to philosophy is Plato's Dialogues. Can you explain why we can't see or interact with God's essence? Because it's hidden. Because God lives, and St. Timothy says, light inaccessible. Fathers talk about God is light. That lives in it's a luminous darkness. the cherubim surround so I'd say the reason he can't is because it's utterly hidden. It's so far beyond anything. It's only known in the inner Trinitarian and seen in the inner Trinitarian life. And that the testimony of the fathers too, that like even in the life to come, you do not gaze upon the and in part, yeah, it's because they reject the energies doctrine. That there's why? Because they commit themselves to Greek ontologism, right? Their whole religion is based on Greek kind of metaphysics of essence. And so I think is Vladimir Losky points out, they cannot conceive of a mode apart from essence, a mode of existence apart from essence. So there's no way they don't even have the conceptual hardware to be like, could God have different modes and one of them that's not his essence? They can't conceive that. Free Midwest, are you speaking to me or somebody in the chat? I can't figure out. Can't figure out who you're speaking to. I am Father Deacon Ananias, also known as FDA. Or FDDA, as some people. Father Deacon Dr. Ananias. Alright. I want to find some other stuff. Anyways, I thought you'd appreciate the flamethrower spider killer. Once I had a flamethrower. Kill spiders, of course. Cannot find what I'm looking for. I wanted to pop up. Okay. Oh, here's more. Yeah. Why do people look so old? And the 50s and 60s. That's an interesting. Charlie Kirk. Nope. Nope, 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 nope. Oh, here's something interesting. Can I ask the difference between God's essence and energy? Energy is energeia, activity. Let's just start with created things, and then so energeia is also associated with being. So you have an essence, and the essence can do through your person, you can do certain things. And what you do reveals what and who you are. Okay? And the energies, there's an energy proper to every essence. And think about it like it flows outward from like rays of light from the sun. Now, obviously, there's a distinction between the rays of light then from the sun are not the sun. It comes from the sun, and it reveals something about the sun. Likewise, there's the distinction. So the activity of the sun is its burning and light emitting. Those are energies. But it's not the sun itself. It comes from the sun, and they're not detached. And it reveals something about, well, human beings are like that too, or any essence, anything that has any essence. The things that you do reveal your essence, but they're not your essence. So if I do philosophy or mathematics, or I build something, right, that's an activity. It's not me, but it reveals something about me and my rational nature, and it flows from. Okay. For God, he has the same thing. The difference is he is his, like, whereas we are not the activities, he is his energies and activities. And unlike us that just remain, they're finite and temporal, meaning I'm not always doing math, and I haven't always been doing math. It's what Aristotle says is second actuality. So first and second actuality is that goes with first and second potency. So I have a potential to be a mathematician, but I haven't learned it yet. So I'm not actually a mathematician. Then I learn math and I acquire a new sort of being. I'm actually a mathematician, even if I'm not doing it. But because I have first actuality, that's what enables me to do mathematics or music or whatever that you have. Okay, so those are energies, literally activities, right? And they're associated with what? Being. Okay. Now, so I'm not doing math. God's activities are eternal. Okay. But God is beyond being. So his essence is not being. That's one of the problems with the Latins, is they think that his essence is being itself. And we say he's beyond being. Being is predicated of his activities. They're eternal. They're uncreated. They're infinite. They're really distinct, both from the essence and from one another. And they're actually God. Unlike us, that's what I said, God has different modes of existence. One in himself, in his essence, and one outside of his essence. So, also, his essence is utterly transcendent and unknowable. It doesn't enter into creation. His energies do. It's in which, as St. Paul says, in him we move and live and have our being. They're immanent. They are that which sustains the tree, you, everything, and they're actually in without being the created thing itself. They're sustaining, maintaining the creation. They're triadic, right? That's why the Trinity is impressed iconographically upon everything in creation and sustaining it. And so we get to know, we encounter God's essence, right? They're not, because it's not separated from his energies. So they're not detached, but we never see it. We never know it. It doesn't enter into time and space. It transcends. So the connection to it, so that we're actually talking about God and experiencing the real God in his essence, is through his energies. Does that make sense? Mike 3, 999. I'd love to hear you talk more about the essence and how it was reasoned or revealed as well, and why it's essential to tag justification. Yeah, well, part of the problem is, again, if by even Roman Catholic standards, the essence can't enter into creation, how do you know that God exists apart from divine revelation? God doesn't enter into space and time and reveal who and what he is. You're locked in your head and you're reasoning through a causal chain that you never actually get to the transcendent God. But if God is in nature, panentheism, through his energies, that's the bridge. So they have no bridge between the two opposite terms. You, the finite, right, circumscribed, temporal, material being, an infinite, purely immaterial, transcendent, uncreated, uncircumscribed being. There's no way to relate. So you can't reason through a causal chain in your mind, from your mind alone, and be like, oh, well, then I just deduce that God exists. You can never get to it. So you need a mean proportion. What's the mean proportion? Personhood, that God's a person, and energies. If you don't have that, you're literally just like making up phantasms and retarded stuff in your head. That's why it's necessary in tag. But the whole thing is, right? Tag isn't just like, well, if I just add these parts, why does this work? Why is this needed? The question is, and I'm going to read this to you. Remember what Gerby says, it's not what God is, but is he Lord, and has he revealed himself? And if he has, where? That's what tag is. God is the Lord who has revealed himself. It's not actually an argument. It's not like, well, why doesn't it work if I add this or put, like, you're still stuck in autonomous epistemology that can't even justify anything. It's revelatory. Is there somebody who stands behind, it's not just, is there somebody that stands behind the universe as a position? No, but a position to reveal. And if there is, has he and where? That's tag. So I think people get too caught up in the left brain analytic and be like, it's pretty simple. I'm going to read you something from my godson that's working on a book. Epistemic standing that he was working on when Russ before he passed. Consider the following analogy. A group of divers are standing on a cliff over... So what's great about this story is it gets people away from the autism and like the left brain, like the logical argument and the deduct, like, and be like, it's actually really simple. What did I write in my second to last paper and my third to last? The hardest part of the problem is convincing the people the problem isn't hard at all, but really easy. Me writing out flow charts and putting this in my 21 premise argument, putting in modal logic, doing modus ponens, like, none of this has ever, like, cleared things up for people. Isn't that interesting? That people are like, oh, I get it. They seem to just get more confused. No, I think it's still good that I can do that. But it seems to make people miss the argument even more when I go into the left brain analytic. And I think this might be a better way. It's really easy. Let's tell a story. An analogy. A group of divers are standing on a cliff overlooking the ocean. They have an old hand-drawn map that shows an underwater cave system immediately below them. However, there are no records of an underwater cave system at this location. One of the divers leaps from the cliff and disappears under the surf. His fellow divers wait expectantly for him to resurface. Finally, they see bubbles, and then he breaks the surface, and they look excitedly for him to provide confirmation that he has in fact found the cave system. Of all the divers, he is the only one that's in a position to know. whether the cave system is a reality or their map is a hoax. As he breaks the ocean surface, he signals his fellow divers with a clear thumbs up. Just as our intrepid diver is in a position to know whether the cave system really exists or is only a fiction on an old map, if the world is intentional, in other words, there's a God that is Lord, not just a monad, but he creates in a personal way such that there's intention. Why is there causality? Why is there essences of human beings and persons such that they're able to know? Because God created it that way. Why is there identity or type? Because God created it that way. Why is there logic? Because God created it that way. There's intention behind it. Then there exists someone from whom the world is not a construct, i.e. autonomous epistemology. I'm constructing this. Someone who is, to use A.J. Ayer's term, in a position to know. This opens up the possibility of our narrative construction. Because what we're doing is we're looking at narratives of the stories. It'd be like, which one makes sense? Which even makes sense that knowledge and narratives are even possible under the which narrative? Moving beyond mere fictionalism towards realism. The possibility of engaging in more than a pure construct, i.e. wondering whether the cave is real or not. But this can only happen if the person who's in a position to know participates in the conversation. He provides a thumbs up. The participation is called revelation. So there it gets back to wise energies and personhood. And that's because that's what's referred to have participation, to have a conversation. Can you have a conversation with a transcendent essence that can't enter into space and time? You can never even reason to, let alone talk to? No, we need revelation. And that's why the psalmist says, the Lord, God is the Lord who revealed himself to us. But of course, the diver cave analogy only goes so far. The diver was in a position to know whether the cave was real or not, or only a fictional map. However, in an intentional world, the one in a position to know is in this position because he created the world. So the diver didn't create the world. So that's what he's saying. It only goes so far with the analogy. And in this story, the person is in a position because God, the person created the world ex nihilo, and is in fact behind the world, over, above, and behind. Thus, he's not just in a position to know as our diver, but he is in the position, the position to know, which is the position of being in back of the world. Well, the diver was in a position to reveal to his fellow divers that the cave was real because he saw the cave entrance. The one in back of the world knows what is, because he knows what he's done. Thus, the creator of the world, standing in back of the world, is not just in a position to know, but like our intrepid diver, is also in a position to reveal. Extending the analogy to the issue of epistemic standing, the question becomes not, does a being in a position to know exist, but has it been revealed? If so, where has it been revealed? Does this history contain evidence of such revelation? And there's only one competitor. Candidate, Orthodoxy. In order to understand how revelation conveys standing, it will help to return to our divers on the cliff. Turns out, when the divers initially reached the cliffs for their dive, they were not aware of the cave or even the old map that purportedly showed the location of the cave system. While they were checking their tanks and equipment, a young boy from a local village approached them and offered them an old map for a small amount of cash. Prior to the appearance of the boy, there was no knowledge of the cave and no reason to expect such a feature. Thus, it was only upon receipt of the map from the young boy that the possibility of the cave became a reality, though still needing confirmation. Thus, epistemic standing was conveyed through the simple transaction between the divers and the boy. It only remained for the intrepid diver to plunge into the surf and confirm there in fact was a cave. That's why you gotta look, you gotta plunge into the history and be like, Was it revealed? Yes, it was. The map was given and revealed, right? While the analogy is not perfect, it does show that it was only through revelations that the divers became. So it wasn't through speculative philosophy, because again, this doesn't even become a possibility until they meet the boy with the map. They only became aware that there may be a cave and below the waves, and it's only through empirical confirmation the concepts in the map were certified. Thus, for the issue of epistemic standing, the question becomes not, does a being in a position to know exist, as we've already seen through the discussion we just gave. Under theism, orthodoxy is hermeneutic, that question has been answered. The question that remains unanswered is, has it been revealed? If so, where? Does history contain evidence of... That's why I say you have to look at the history. Now imagine I gave this story, right? And somebody says, well, I need that story put into... Like, how does the logic of that argument? Isn't it really to miss what the argument actually is? Isn't this an example of you're getting lost in the epistemic trees for the epistemic forest? If you can't pull yourself out and see the story, that this isn't even possible, right? Unless there's somebody that stands back behind the unit, unless it's a world of intentionality. You going through and making arguments and saying, why is this piece for tag need? Like, that doesn't even make any sense. You're not putting first things first. You're putting things way down the line first, which is the exact problem. You need to pull yourself out and look at the larger picture, and that's right brain. That's what I'm saying. It's autistic to ask these like kinds of questions about the details of... We can do that later on, right? I could do that, but it's never really helped anybody. Nobody's had a breakthrough or an insight and be like, oh, I get it. Why? Because they're stuck down in the minutia of the details of the epistemic trees and missing the epistemic forest. Like, is there even a forest? Right? You've got to pull out and look at that narrative that was given that way. So, no, they're opposite. You can't relate opposites. They're incommensurate. That's like a classic, like just kind of run of the mill. I mean, everybody understands that. Woo, Mike 3. Woo-haw, dude. What cooking? We got $49.99. Great analogy, thanks. So how do Roman Catholics both claim energies don't exist and essence cannot enter? It's just very interesting to me how a logically sound paradigm was revealed and then altered by Roman Catholics. They just collapse. It's a modal collapse. They're just like, it's absolute divine simplicity. All the energies are just simply... and that's why they come up with the other heresy, created grace. So we would say grace are the energies, and they're uncreated. They would say God creates grace. So he does actions, which they're going to have a heck of a time explaining, given absolute divine simplicity, how that's possible. From him that enter in, that's why the theophanies are holograms. They're not actually God. They're literally created projection images of God. And then I have no idea how they argue about the Eucharist. I mean, you saw Dr. Christopher Tomasławski. That's why I was like shocked. He says you don't experience the Eucharist. You don't sense. And I was like, I mean, maybe I'd expect a certain Protestants to say that, but like Roman Catholics, is God there or not? Then you, right? As Father Russell says, you sense him as much as he wants to be sensed, right? And that's why I gave while at the same time realizing, well, it's no longer ordinary bread or wine. He's truly present. Beyond that, we're not going to say exactly how, because that gets into, it'll lead to theological contradictions, like the Roman Catholic doctrine of transubstantiation. But he's really present there, his mystical body. It's no longer normal bread and wine. He's not symbolically present there. He's not just present there by his powers. He's actually invisibly and physically, but invisibly and mystically present in the Eucharist, the bread and wine. And you sense that. Like that's why, I mean, we sing from the psalmist, "Oh, come and see and taste that the Lord is good." Like, that the Lord is good. There is the Lord. Come taste and see. Like, he's saying, like, well, you can't sense God. It's like, of course you can. He's in. And I give the analogy of iconography. I can sense God without saying God is actually the sensible thing of the wood and the matter, right? God can exist in, and you can only explain this through energies, the divine energies. In filling all things, sustaining it, without being the actual properties itself. But he's there. Like, I have a real immediate experience. I don't causally, like, through a chain of reason and be like, well, I just deduced that. That's what they have to do. That's why in their worldview, there is no God in nature. He's not present, immediately present, and immanent. They're created graces from God. This is just awful. It's a terrible system. But does everybody get the whole why you can't bridge opposites unless you have a... If two things are opposites and incommensurate, it literally by definition means not this, not related to this in any way. Literally the opposite. So you need a proportion. For example, if A is the opposite of B, you need something to relate them. Or even if they're different, they have to be related. Difference means it's not the other thing. So you have to make something like this. A is to C as C is to B. That's the mean proportion. If A is the infinite and B is the finite, you can't relate them without a C. There has to be something that they both share. Oops, I messed it. That was supposed to be A is to C is C is to B. Now I've related it. Now I've made them commensurate. A is the infinite, B is the finite. It is through the divine energies and personhood that's the relation between the two. And notice C is not A, and C is not B, but it's the bridge, it's what they show. I would never say we define God. Define means to put borders and to circumscribe, so you can't define God. So, are you asking when we refer to God to refer to that he has an essence and person? Yes. And the persons have the divine essence? Yes. But you can't define God. So that's an incorrect question. I'm a total supporter of death to the world. I had the shirts. I'm friends with Father John Valdez. I'm friends with Justin Marley. So, yeah. Right on. Can't say enough good things. You can't explain... The Trinity, persons transcend essence. So you can't start from a monadic essence, first of all, because God's not autotheos. This is the whole problem of Western thought. It starts with essence first. You can't actually They're different. Persons have essences, and they can't be reduced simply to just an individuated, concrete instance of the essence. Every heresy comes from that. So it means person transcends essence. Also, person implies a relation to another person. So there's a sense of dependence, because in some sense the Father is monarchy; it doesn't depend on anything. But you can't be eternal Father, unless you have eternal Son. So the very notion of even person, right, implies there is no one person. A monad cannot be a person. That's why you can't go from essence to personhood. That's when orthodoxy, the Ordo Theology, is you start with personhood first. So you've got it backwards. You can't go from essence and derive personhood. Personhood is first. Persons transcend essence. Persons have essences. Probably they try to answer this through a maze of word wizardry and sorcery, semantical sorcery, and confuse you. I don't understand. How do you explain the hypostatic union? I think you need to rephrase your question. What is the hypostatic union? How does it relate to the essence energy distinction? Pretty easy. There's one essence God the Father has that he eternally gives and begets to the Son. Where one essence, right? He's not lacking anything. And the Holy Spirit that proceeds from the Father, he receives the essence from him. So Father is monarchy of the essence. Okay? In terms of essence, they all share the same properties of what the essence in every, and the energies that belong to that essence. That is the perichoresis and the inner Trinitarian life. They all share that. The only thing that they don't share are the unique hypostatic properties. Okay, Father is sole cause, Son is eternally begotten, and the Holy Spirit is eternally proceeding. Okay, so they're always divine persons because they have a divine essence. The second person of the divine Holy Trinity comes into space and time and assumes human nature and unites those two natures. Completely united, still distinct, but completely united in one divine person. So, no. They all share the same essence. That's what I said. Just like you do. Every human being shares the same. You don't have different essences. You're different persons. Now, you end up being distinct beings because you're material instantiations of that, right? You're divided in space and time. But God exists as eternally as they're not divided beings. There's not three gods. God refers to the essence. There's one essence in three persons that three persons have. So there can't be three beings, three gods, or three essences. But we don't even say that with us. We don't say that there's millions. There's one essence, right? That's individuated in different persons. And because it's materially instantiated in concrete material in space and time, it makes different beings. But so that relates to the person's essence and the energies in the hypostatic union. There you go. And so there's energies for there's one energy proper to each nature, but there's also, like, just with human beings, there's multiple things, given that you have a rational essence and soul, that nature, that you can do, right? Obviously Christ has that when he fully assumes human nature. One of those things is also will, which is proper to nature. So Christ in the incarnation has two wills. The monarchy of the Father is so arche, right? The cause and principle. They give Christ that. So Christ and the Father share. So they're not monarchical Trinitarians. They give that the cause, that causal principle, to the Son. So there's dual cause. That's the whole problem. Yeah, and this whole stupid Roman Catholic, like, well, it's analogy entis, analogy, but like, that's the whole thing in question. You can only have an analogy. Notice that's actually, that mathematical formula is an analogy. Like, remember when you had to do SATs, or if you did the GRE or something like that? A rock is to your dad is to something strong and immovable, or something, like, remember? So for them to be like, oh, analogy entis is for them to posit C, but they have no C. They just have A and B. So that's why it's illogical. Begotten just generally means coming from. Okay, so even within space and time, it does, there's just additional things that are added to that in space and time, but there's nothing that in begotten that means created at one point. It just means coming from. So, I mean, if I broke, right, beget, you get this thing, the being of it, from another thing. That's all it means. And the problem is that everybody thinks that cause and effect have to be a temporal relation. It doesn't at all. The word cause doesn't even imply time. There's nothing in the etymology of that word that implies creation or time. Ate, right? Or even the Latin, caus, means to fall from, to come from. Its appearance is due to the other thing. No mention of the word time in there. So, begetting is a causal relationship, doesn't imply time either for us or for. However, in space and time, we are, right, things do, obviously, it's when you add the time element. But if you're outside of time and transcend time, obviously that doesn't apply. So it means he was always coming from the cause. And there's only one cause of divinity. It's God the Father. And there's only one cause of the persons. The Father. Yet there's a sort of dependence, even though he's cause, the sole cause, there is a dependence. He can't exist not because there's something that stands behind them, it conditions, but because that's what he is, and who he is there's a he can't exist as a person apart from other eternal persons. Why? Because that's what it means to be a person. Not because there's something or logic or something that stands behind him. That's because what he is and who he is. Person implies existere, the existence of that personhood in relation to another person. That's literally the etymology of. So that's enough to prove Trinitarianism and refute Unitarianism. It's actually pretty easy, isn't it? Literally just going into the meaning of how we use words. Unitarianism and Trinitarian is refuted, and Trinitarianism is proved. That's why I said everybody makes it way more difficult. Now, I can't comprehend the Trinity or something like that, but as far as proved, like, it's super easy. Like, even a child can. Actually, I think children are probably in a better position to understand this. People make it difficult. People make it way more difficult. Why? Well, part because you're listening to retards online who don't know what they're talking about. That could be one. But like I said in my paper where I quoted myself, the hardest part is convincing people the problem isn't hard at all. It's really easy. Blaise Pascal said, nothing would be more clear than God, the Trinity, if it wasn't for all these distractions that man makes. There he is. Like, how could it be anything else but Trinity? If it's revealed and fills all things and sustains the universe, like, it's the first. It's the most obvious. So that's what St. Paul talks about. But men suppress that knowledge. All know the Trinity and the invisible attributes and powers and Godhead from the things that have been made. I mean, why? Because he's in them. He's right there immediately. He's not deduced logically to and reason to. Because all means not just philosophers, but children and infants. All know it. Absolutely immediate because God is there. There's nothing more obvious than the Trinity. And then St. Paul says, but men suppress by acts of unrighteousness, word and deed, thoughts, philosophy systems, and just like Pascal, they create, distractions, idols, systems where you can no longer like see what's obvious. All right, moving on. There's a thing about Brother Nathaniel that I was going to cover. I told you, I was warning you about that guy for... This is how funny, I'm not going to put it up. Dude, yeah, this guy has to learn how to swing the... I can't believe you guys fell for that. What is this? This is exactly what I'm talking about. Where, me? Oh, White Crispy? Who are we talking about here? Remember we talked about aesthetics and health? And the left and liberals literally are like ugly aesthetic, and they're Gnostic. They hate the body. They hate themselves. I've come... And I'm having more and more pity and sympathy for like just seeing just like people walking around. I'm like, unhealthy. And like, not only are they just ideologically, their ideologies make them miserable, hateful people who are always preaching tolerance and love. Isn't that hilarious? Is there? I just can't believe people are that dumb to be like, you have to love. Fuck. Except for these guys, you have to hate. Like, it's just, you've got to be an absolute retard and fool to fall for the lefts and liberals. Egalitarian equity and love and compassion. I mean, how stupid do you guys have to be? Just look at Democrat City. Do they look like they love and help the poor? Just on a practical, they're literally the worst group of people, but all y'all will vote it because you just hate Trump. And I'm not saying vote for Trump, like, I'm not a MAGA guy, but like, you get what I'm saying, right? Ain't nobody happy with Trump at this point. But well, I'm just saying that it's like, you hate a group of people so much the other side, it's like, that's what you vote, and you fall for, like, but they say they like, love for everybody and freedom and helping the poor. It's like, people say a lot of crap, like, to get you, like, look what they look like they vote for. I mean, let's see, I'll pop up something else for you. That's why I thought it was so funny. I just don't understand, like, again, I critique Republicans and conservatives all day long, but it's like, Democrats a whole nother, like, I don't even know how the heck somebody could be that stupid and brainwashed to fall for that stuff. Did you see this one? Gavin Newsom. So, I mean, like, this is a great thing, but it's just like, oh, because we're for immigrants and, we love everybody and show him good to own land. That pot ain't gonna pick itself, you miserable classic California Democrat. Literally child slave labor at pot plants, at pot farms. Isn't that great? Doesn't it just kind of sum it up? That pot isn't gonna pick itself. Child labor. Child labor, Democrat, pedo. Literally the party of diddling little kids, pedo, brainwash kids, have them chemically castrated, chop their body parts off. I'm saying their platform. I don't have to, like, people will be like, well, we're all Republicans are just as bad. It's like, they don't have a platform party message of a Malthusian death cult. Mutilate the body, bring in pedo, brainwash the kids into, to chop all their body parts off, which commit suicide, anti-natalism, pro-abortion, pro-slavery, child work camp. Like, that's your party. Like, that's your party platform. Like, anti-natalist, like, literally death. All in it. Yeah, but death for all. You see, it's equality and love. If you're that far gone and you're voting for Democrat, like, because the other side's bad, because you can pick out stupid stuff from the other side, like, there ain't no help for you. If you look like this is what being a Democrat makes you look like, a liberal. Look at this. Can you imagine how these people feel just physically? This girl has, like, I see this all the time. Look at that. What are you eating? Look at this. That's what you turn into if you vote Democrat. You just become Jabba the Hutt. I genuinely feel bad. First of all, they all look like they're probably on SSRIs and mental illness, right? But if you know anything, like if you ever ate unhealthy or been unhealthy, like you are tired, you're miserable, you feel sick all the time. That's why they put you on all the medication. Don't you feel bad for these people? I'm not even angry. I mean, angry at the like elites that create this nonsense and push it, but like, I generally have compassion and sympathy for these people. I can't even imagine how physically awful you must feel. And then they just pump you full of drugs that make you feel worse. It's so sad. It really, and I see it, you know, I'll walk around and like, and I look, I'm not being judgmental, like, I'm angry what they did to society and people. I'm like, they did that. They made people into this. And it's awful. It's so sad. Yeah, her face looks like she cleans pores out of the bacon. The other one looks like either that or it looks like somebody put a fire out with a pickaxe on her face. Oh, but that's fat shaming. I had some student be like, you can't talk. It's like, you're not a loving person. I don't want people to feel terrible. I don't want people to destroy their souls, society, and bodies and feel terrible. Like, isn't that the loving thing? I mean, you can't point out bad things anymore. I mean, think about if we raised our children like, Mom, Dad, I want to get a carton of Marlboro Reds and a bottle of Jack Daniels. And the parent says, no. Well, that's not loving. That's what children say. It is loving. Why would you let your child do something like that? Why are we the bad people for saying, I don't want people to have to destroy themselves and live that way and kill themselves? We live in a society, child's like, Mom, Dad, like, so it's perfect. Everybody gets that, right? Mom, Dad, kid's 10 years old. I want to pack a Marlboro Reds and a bottle of Jack Daniels. No. Well, I want to chop my pee-pee off. Oh, yeah, well, that's okay. You see, it's all totally inverted. You can take a poo-poo and while smoking a meth pipe on the streets of San Francisco and then make love to poo-poo in somebody's poo-poo pants. All that's totally fine in public. But straws, now that's too far. Smoking a cigarette in California, no way. Like, that's as bad as evil as you could ever. I mean, everybody should be making love to poo-poo and smoking a meth pipe and crack on fentanyl while taking a dump on the street so everybody could, like, that's obviously virtue. I mean, congratulations. That's what you vote for if you're a Democrat. Oh no, but being racially offended, that's the worst thing, right? It's not making love to poo-poo pants and smoking crack and destroying yourself and your soul and society. It's not even racial, like, it's just being offensive. You can't actually say, hey, you're unhealthy, you're fat, and we want to make you better. Well, you can't say that. That's the most evil thing for the left. That's why it's a con. When they say love, that's not love. Are you crazy? We Orthodox love these people. Why? Because we want to see them do better and be healthy. Spiritually, mentally, and physically. You notice it's literally demonic. It's inverted. Like, Me caring for, and by the way, I'm going to rip into libertarians too. It's not just like, they're just as demonic. Well, as long as nobody raping and killing my children on my property and messing with my finances, this government's out of my taxes, I don't care what people do. There you go. Libertarianism. I don't care about anybody else but myself. So libertarianism is just as demonic as left. We got a bunch of libertarian tards in Montana, unfortunately. They're the worst. What's worse? It's hard to say. And I say that as a recovering anarcho-libertarian. It's just a egotistical, isolated, modern garbage can. Political theory. Do you like when I get all riled up at evil ideas? Notice, not people. I have compassion from them. It's the ideas. And the people who are generally like evil and pushing this stuff and taking advantage. I've always hated bullies. Even when I was a scrawny, skinny little kid, I would fight them. Because I hate seeing people taken advantage of by people who are stronger, who are bullies. I don't care if I got a beat down. I stood up. At the end of the day, I want, at the end of life, to be known like, here's a man that didn't take it. Sitting down. He lost. They killed him. But he stood up for the most vulnerable people. He did everything he could, even though he didn't win, and abolish evil. He made a stand. He made a last stand in the name of the most vulnerable in society. That's what I want to be known for. They tortured him, they killed him, they did everything, they slandered his name through the mud, but he stood for the innocent. That's what I'd like to be. And I've always had that element in me. That's why I'm like, I love these people. Like, you're taking advantage of them. Especially children. That's why they bring this stuff into schools and target the youth. So, is because they're the most vulnerable. That's God's precious children. And look what they did to you. That's what makes me angry. And I feel so bad. I have so much compassion and love for these people. I'm like, I don't want them to live like that. I don't want anybody to have to go through this and be destroyed and hurt and in pain. Oh, you're so bad. That makes me evil, then whatever. So notice, if that makes you a fascist, if that makes you evil, if that makes you, whatever the words, so be it. Because it's just the opposite of those meanings. Like, you can't label me. Like, we all know that's actually the loving thing. That's the one who actually cares. You don't get to make up your own, take our words and make and change the meaning of them and label us. Yeah, that's true, Mike Drew. That's probably in almost every city. I mean, even our city, like, I mean, I'm in the capital, so there's a lot of politics. Like, it's Democrat. It's predominantly Democrat. So I think you do, especially in Montana, a lot of people just are like, I can't change it. As much as, like, there's nothing you can do. So they just kind of take a libertarian. I think that's fair. Just leave us alone. So I saw on Twitch too. So notice that, speaking of like hijacking language, so the right and conservatives would use that liberals are snowflakes. Have you noticed that, especially on X? I mean, I won't go onto Reddit, so I can't even imagine what sort of hell state it exists on that app, but and that. But now the new things, I see that if anybody object, like, so there was an article or something about in Tampa, Florida. Remember the gay street they painted? The gay flag colors. Well, I guess Trump made an order like to have that has to be taken up. First of all, I guess it turned out to be a driving hazard too, and it got slippery when it would rain and stuff like that, and But anyways, it's ruled that they have to paint it back. And so we get all these liberal leftists are like, "Oh, did we hurt your? Are you scared, you snowflake?" And they're using this. I mean, let's just be like, are you asking me if I'm scared of people making love to poop and celebrating and getting children to be involved in poop parades? AIDS parades? Like, let's give ourselves, like, am I scared? No, I'm not scared. It's not a snowflake. It's frickin' evil, and I'm not going to stand for it. It's disgusting and evil. How about that? Why is me pointing? Isn't that the opposite of being scared? If I'm going into a war, because I'm like, this, let's suppose I was a soldier and be like, this is so evil and bad that I'm going to lay my life down and enter. Isn't that the opposite of being a snowflake and scared? I'm not scared that you're a bunch of pedos diddling kids and mutilating their bodies. I'm not afraid of you. Fact is, it's a war. Not on my watch. I'm not going to let you do this to the most innocent people. Poop parades, dude. Are you kidding me? I mean, how childish. It's like, what are you scared? Eat the poop. You can just imagine some kid saying that. I'm like, it's not about being scared. It's freaking disgusting. You're not supposed to do that. But looks like you're scared. That's literally what they're doing. Eat the poop. Right, you're scared. You're a snowflake unless you do this horrendous, evil, disgusting act and support it. It's like, I'm not scared of it. I'm calling it out. Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing. You'll eat the poop and live in a poop pod and be happy. Bring it back down to that language. Do not let them get away with these vague generalities. Love is love, but like, it's a poop fetish. And it's diddling little kids and making them fall in love with eating and making love to poop. Like that, let's just get down to it. That makes me a hateful, bigoted What are you, crazy? We're talking about poop. Seriously, we gotta like get people into quit with all this language, vague language, and so, which is exactly what they want. That's what you gotta bring it back down to the crap. Don't let them get away with it. You don't get to define the words bigotry. If bigotry means standing up to vice and soul and societal destruction, like, fine, I do not care. Woe to them that call evil good and good evil. That's what you're doing. I don't know what bigotry means, you idiot. All right. What else? I'm not gonna cover that. It was Michael Lofton thing. But where is the Brother Nathaniel? Dude, that guy just crashed out. I can't believe you people arguing with me years back. He's our guy. I'm like, he's not your guy. Nope. Yeah, anyways, Mike, that was a good point about the libertarian. Yeah, I think it's shifting. I was surprised. This is no shout out to Pine Sap, but I was shocked that they actually. I don't even know where he worked. Maybe that's a good question. Does anybody know? So he went on with that idiot. The guy's just totally unbearably obnoxious on Jubilee, and Pine Sap denounced democracy, rightly so. You know, in principle, this like I didn't even think the stuff was that offensive. They wanted like, yeah, you help your friends out and punish your enemies. Like in principle, right now the details obviously matter, but it's like he's like I support aristocracy and um he even denounced Tiny Mustache Man's murders. Then he said something about like, well, I think in principle he was trying to do the right thing, and then he said he supported Franco's fascism, and that's it. That's the end of your life. You use that word, and I was just kind of shocked that I thought we were further along. I didn't know that you could. They were still back in the place that like you could actually be fired for holding a political position, a political theory. Um, that was kind of unfortunate. Now maybe he's coming. The guy's already what raised $30,000 or something. Now he's famous, so I don't know. I just find it hilarious. It's like out of all the systems and theories that are like wrong, that you could say like, yeah, I object, or I don't think that's correct. Nobody. I'd like to know if anybody was like, well, you actually have social democrat idea, like you're actually fired from the job, like you're a threat to society, just by holding that idea. I wonder if that's ever happened. But if you hold to any F theory, you're gone, dude. Your life is. I just find that kind of interesting. Like totally, like intolerant. Like I mean, society will not actually. That's the one. Any theories loosely associated with that's you're gone. I think they're even trying to do that with monarchism too, maybe, but not as bad. No, he didn't really do. I mean, it was kind of entertaining to kind of see that he just kind of was owning it. Yeah, fine. That's what I whatever. That cost him his job. He didn't do that well rhetorically. What Pine Sap did is the way that he talked on X is the way that he actually talked in a debate, and that obviously doesn't work. Yeah, filibustered his entire. Yeah, exactly. I'd never like. I don't know why anybody would go on that show, but yes, exactly. That great point, Mike 3. Oh, so he was saying is then he reframes what he said as something he clearly wasn't saying. Then they use that and be like, well, obviously he's a NAZI. It's like, didn't he say he wasn't? Yeah, that was so stupid. That guy is just unbearable. I forget his name. Yeah, Brother Nathaniel's going on. Well, first of all, he left the church, so he's not Orthodox. He's a schismatic. Um, had a crash out after, you know, trying to seduce a young girl online as a monk. never apologized, never backed down. It's totally gross, like the stuff he was saying to her. Finally gets rebuked and leaves the church, and now he's complaining enough that people aren't supporting him. He's 75 years old, and people aren't giving him money. Kind of a stereotype, like fitting the stereotype there. People aren't giving me money. And complains. Nick Fuentes gets $1,200 a stream. It's like, yeah, maybe because you act and do the stuff that you do. Yeah, he's true, genuine Orthodox Church. Speaking of money, any more money? Any more super chats? I want to give a big thanks to Dave the Philippian, Cleaved Antiquity, Mike 3, who donated, and of course, Mike 3 the second. $49.99. That was awesome, dude. Very, very, very blessed. Thank you. Anything before we leave? Big stuff coming up, already said. And interviews next week. By the way, somebody... Yeah, thank you guys. You guys make a great stream. Yeah, store page on the Patristic Faith. There's a donation button in Patristic Faith too, but our store, I gotta add some merch to this, but shop. You can do the coffee or courses. So if you look here, you come to shop, you can get the coffee, all my course and tutoring works in here. Keep in mind the lower price courses are not like those are just recorded lectures. It's not the interactive, like these here are a full university course with office hours every week, quizzes, tests, papers, the interactive software, the books, the files, the articles, the grading, the exam. That's why it's priced where it's at, but that's cheaper than even like a community college. And departments in colleges are actually, you know, have a we even have some students that their chair and dean receives that as actual course credit, because I do teach. I am a professor. I don't just have a PhD in philosophy. I am a professor of philosophy. These courses are all courses that I actually teach in accredited colleges and universities. And so they have syllabi, all these different things. So that's why it puts me in a unique place to be able to offer an actual university course, and why some departments will actually receive that as credit is because they're actually the same course that I teach at the university, the same software, same accreditation, right? So that's what makes it valuable. That's why, you know, but I'm bringing it down way lower than like what like somebody, let's say out of state, going to a community college would pay. You don't have to pay for registration fees. I could get rid of all of that. You don't have to deal with the bureaucracy. So that's the Patristic Faith store. So the canvas is the full courses. These are just people who are like, well, I don't want to be that involved, but I'd like to get all the lectures. Then I give you a discount on that. So, and then you can get the coffee lore here. And we'll try to get some more merch up there. I just finished a bag today. Isn't that interesting? And I do our tutoring as well. And that's in the shop. But thank you guys. Yeah, I do have plans to do political philosophy. I haven't done the ethics, philosophy, science, or political philosophy. Those are the three that I'd like to do. Also, there's payment plans if people can't pay all. Sometimes people even donate in their scholarships funds too. So that's cool. But yeah, the political philosophy would be awesome. I would love that, and the ethics and philosophy of science would be really cool. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Just make sure I didn't miss anybody. And until next time, may you have a blessed liturgy, like I said, Sunday. And thank you so much, all of you, for your support, for your love and prayers. Until next time, God bless. I press the end stream button. It's not. Stop. End stream. It won't let us. I guess we're never ending unto the ages of age. It says page is not responding. It's like, you are not allowed to end stream. Never seen that happen before. Never seen that happen before. All right, let's see if it works this time. Let's see. Bye-bye. There it is. All right, God bless.